Alright, so here we are again with the KO Moto kit. I want to go over a few things that didn't get touched off on yesterday as it was getting dark, and clearly today it's still light out and early in the day. So, a bunch of misunderstandings. Either people are not smart enough to figure this out or they just don't care. But, as I said, this kit is capable of, let's just call it 30 kilowatts to be fine. That's 30,000 watts. So, with that being said, clearly I did not purchase the motor and controller and slap it on here and just assume, boom, whoo, I got 30 kilowatts ready to go. Clearly, I have a stock battery. It is not bypassed. It is limited to 95 amps, as it should be. I did not want to do the BMS bypass because I plan on selling the battery when I get an aftermarket battery. That is on hold at the moment. I have a lot of things coming up. I'm going to be out of the state. Doesn't make any point to buy a battery that I can't be home to get when it gets delivered. So anyways, right now, when you buy this kit, people have another misnomer that when you buy the kit, it comes with a tune on it, plug and play, you put the thing in, go outside and rip it. You're good to go. It's not how this works. This kit was made so that people could customize it to what they want. So the controller does not have a tune on it. When you first get it, you'll have to hook it up, turn the throttle on. You'll have to calibrate the throttle in their little program that they give you. It's got a computer program. There's also an app program that you can mess with some stuff, but you got to do the calibration on the computer as far as I'm aware. And you go in, you modify this, you modify that, you do your settings. For instance, with mine, they have a HAX, which is, we'll call it a map for simplicity. The stock battery is rated for 95 amps output, certain RPMs, everything else. What they did was they matched the stock Surron controller configuration so that you could put it on here, slap it in, and actually, you know, drive the thing around and then play with the tune and do some modifications as you learn how to do it. That's the whole point. If you have a bigger battery, they have other tunes. They have one for the 60 volt non-bypass, they have one for the 60 volt bypass, they have one for 72 volt aftermarket, and then you just follow up with what they say is the maximum current capacity and everything else so that the controller doesn't overweigh your battery. This controller cares not what you hook to it. If you say, hey, pull 300 amps, it's going to pull 300 amps from anything you hook it to. It cares less if it, you know, causes the BMS to shut off or whatever. So that being said, again, this is not a finished bike. It is on stock power. Is it fast? No, it's not supposed to be. It's a stock battery, but it has a good bit more torque off the line and a little bit more mid-range than the stock motor does, and that's because the motor is wider. It's got a wider rotor and it's got a wider stator. That gives you more surface and field area for that power to get in there and give it some grip, rip the rotor, and, you know, get you torque in the other end. I am running a 54 tooth sprocket, which you're not supposed to do because of how much power this can make with an upgraded battery. But since I don't have that, I left the 54 on. I ordered new wheels. They're not here yet. So I also put the Michelin, you know, Starcross 5s on because the ones I had before, the Shinko 244s, were kind of ass and dirt. So again, we're not expecting anything marvelous here, but what I am doing is feeling out the controller, feeling the controls, how I can change things, getting ahead of when the battery arrives so that I can then play with it with higher power and know why I'm changing things in a program without just going, oh, this guy said to do this. So with that being said, yesterday it was talked about with the throttle. When you let off the throttle, there was a little bit of a delay, I'll call it, not a stuck throttle as some people say. The throttle was not stuck. A stuck throttle is when you turn the throttle and it does not come back. Clearly, this one does just fine at that. It's not a stuck throttle. It's not a lagged signal between the controller and the throttle wires. It has to do with the motor. I've already talked to KO. They're very friendly and very open and discussing it and, you know, finding the tweaks and tunes because that's what they do. They send the motors out. People can play with them and stuff like that. This is introductory. It's the first time they've been on here. They need to make little changes here and there. I've already talked to them. I wrote it for maybe an hour last night and we've already fixed the problem. Not a problem at all. Didn't think it was going to be a problem either. Some people for some reason went straight off the rails saying, oh, it's dangerous, it's going to kill somebody, flip over backwards, do unicorn loops. It wasn't that big of a problem. If you do a wheelie and you know how to do wheelies, if you just do a wheelie going, I think I'll learn a wheelie today and floor it, that's your own problem. You're going to learn real quick that extra torque is going to flip you over. I did it under the assumption, and this is a little bit of a false pretense on myself, that it wasn't going to come up near as quick as it did. It did, and I went to deal with it by letting off the throttle per usual, but there's a slight delay in the way that the power is delivered to the motor. There's a slight delay that causes it to contain a little bit of power. It's hard to explain, but when you give power to this motor through the three-phase wires, it puts power into the coils make magnetism, the magnetism then spins the rotor. When you let off of a inductive load, there's going to be a back charge. It's called back EMF, Lenz's law, look it up. So it had a little bit of a delay, and all we had to do is change one setting in the controller. Perfectly fine now. Again, it was a base map that not a lot of people have tested. We got it all settled out. It literally took 10 minutes. I got home, he said, hey, go ahead and switch this, let's try it out. I switched it, we're good to go. So with that being said, I got the 54 tooth sprocket. Like I said, it is on the stock battery. No, it's not fast because it's a dang stock battery running 95 amps. It is quicker overall than the stock one, and like I mentioned, it's because inside the app, instead of the stock power curve, which is a nice slow increase before you get into full power and then a hard taper at the top, it doesn't have that. You can set it up to be full power, get it and go full power the whole time if you want to. Downside is, if you can see that, it obviously eats the battery pretty quick. We're down to 31%. So what I have been playing with is calibrating the speedometer. As you can see, it says 32 max. I was doing runs at 30 mile an hour. I was able to find out the number that I needed, pulses per minute, or pulses per mile per hour, I should say. So every time the motor does a rotation, it sends a pulse. Every 9 pulses stock, it goes 1 mile per hour. I've got the number that I need now. I got it calibrated with GPS and everything. So with the 54 tooth sprocket, this is now accurate. So as you can see, we'll just do a little cruise here. I actually have the proper mount today, so you'll actually be able to see something, which is a nice change. So I think that'll be all right there. So let's see as we cruise. Speedometer comes alive. It holds max there. This is 10, just like it's supposed to be. Everything's accurate. Now the power delivery is pretty good still. Battery's dang near dead, but it still gets up and goes pretty good. Given how low the battery is, it's still very torquey. I mean, we could still easily do wheelies. I'll play with it a little bit. It's still a little apprehensive. I think part of it is having this Form Foundry kit on here. You're so dang high now, it feels really awkward to say the least. But I definitely keep my hand on the rear brake because, like I said, it's no longer a throttle issue and hanging. It's actually now just that the torque delivery is so quick that it's not as laggy as it was before. But you can get on it and you can do pretty decent wheelies now. But having the Shinko 244s on there, they're not really a dirt tire. I'm saying mostly I probably had slippage when I got on it before, but these Starcross 5s, they do not slip in grass, to say the least. They are grippy monsters. But we'll do one more and then I'll end it off. Yeah, I run out of upper torque for sure. I could get my balance point, but I got a little deja vu from yesterday when it looped me on it. But overall, the experience so far, again, if you order the KO kit, the fit and finish has been phenomenal. It looks great.